Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. After the collapse of the Generational Endgame Bill, the GEG, Malaysia is once again debating how to regulate nicotine products. Health Minister Dr. Dzulkefly Ahmad recently announced that Malaysia is moving towards a nationwide ban of the sale and use of vapes by mid-2026, and that the government consultations are now underway on the legal, economic and enforcement aspects of enforcing this ban. Now, will this be another public health breakthrough towards a nicotine-free Malaysia, or could it be another policy that may prove difficult to implement and enforce? Joining me on the show to discuss this further is Dr. Amani Ahmad Tajuddin, who is an associate professor in the Department of Primary Care Medicine at Universiti Malaya's Faculty of Medicine. She is also the Deputy Coordinator of UM's Nicotine Addiction Research and Collaborating Group. Dr. Amani, it's good of you to join me on the show today. So, with the nationwide ban that's been announced that will take place or will happen by mid next year, I'm just wondering whether, what your thoughts are on whether this kind of phased approach to implementing a ban is the right way to go. What do you think from a public health perspective? Is it the right method, the right approach?
All right. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for having me. Well, if you ask me, because I'm from primary care medicine, I am pro for health. So I would say that it is the right approach, having this vape ban. This phased vape ban in Malaysia that we are seeing now, especially when we see that on the 1st of October, that, when there is a ban of point of sale. So that is one of the initiative that is being taken by our Ministry of Health, which must be applauded. So I think the practicality of this phased approach, it allows the regulators, businesses and consumers to adapt rather than face sudden disruption for them, and also making enforcement more realistic. But in the perspective of public health priority, the ban actually aligns with Malaysia's tobacco endgame strategy that we are moving towards 2040, where the prevalence should be less than 5% of smokers in Malaysia. So what we're trying to do is to reduce the exposure to nicotine addiction, particularly among youth and also children. And also when we talk about youth protection, we're trying to gradually remove aggressive marketing towards teenagers and also prevent new generation from becoming nicotine dependent. So that's my take on this phased vape ban.
Can I ask you about vapes? Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the narratives around vapes. Some quarters argue that vape is being used as a tool to quit smoking, and then on the other side there are those who say, well, actually that narrative is tobacco industry driven. What does independent science actually say about this?
Okay, I think when we talk about independent science is the evidence based on studies done from researchers, especially in the medical fraternity. So if we look at a study done in 2013, actually, so this was more than 10 years, but it has been proven from 2013. This was a study done by Prof. Chris Bullen in New Zealand, where they had 650 smokers who wanted to quit, and they were divided into different groups. There was 3 groups. Number 1, people using nicotine e-cigarettes. Number 2 is nicotine patches, and the third group was non-nicotine e-cigarettes. So what it shows here was that this e-cigarette, whether it contains nicotine or non-nicotine, is not more effective than these patches. Why is this? Because after 6 months, the quit rates for all these groups were about the same. Only like 7% out of 100 quit with nicotine e-cigarettes, only 6 out of 100 quit with nicotine patches, and only 4 out of 100 quit with non-nicotine e-cigarettes. I would like to highlight another important thing in this study is that they found that these people who were the participants in this study, they actually became dual user, which means that instead from switching from cigarette to e-cigarette, they were actually using both at the same time during this study duration. So it doesn't help in people to quit actually. Another study that looks into this is a systematic review and meta-analysis, which was published in 2016 in the Lancet Respiratory Medicine. So the summary of this is that people who use e-cigarettes were actually 28% less likely to successfully quit smoking regular cigarettes. So this has been proven, and there are so many other studies to show that e-cigarette is not an effective tool to quit conventional cigarette.
Okay, then having said that, then should governments treat vapes like cigarettes? Because if we think about cigarettes, they're not banned, they're still legal, but just tightly regulated, while vapes may be banned altogether. So if we see cigarettes and vapes and e-cigarettes in the same category, should we be treating them similarly with vaping with strict controls, or do you think there is still a case for complete prohibition?
Okay, so the question here is why not, and why can't we have a complete prohibition of e-cigarette? Because we are seeing reports, case reports, cases when they are admitted to the hospital with e-liquid being contaminated or manipulated with illicit drugs. So talking about this, when by reading, observing, and analyzing the evidence, we can have strict control on vape and also the vaping habit itself. If you ask me personally, complete prohibition would be the way to go, actually, to save our young people, the young generation. However, we are seeing that if there is complete prohibition of this, there will be a lot of repercussion on this. So yes, for now, strict control, very strict control on vaping habit is a must. Tight and strict enforcement must be done from now onwards. When either strict control or complete prohibition, there will be people in the industry talking about, oh, then it will be sold in the black market. People can still get it from the black market. Yes, they can still get it from the black market. Similarly with the conventional cigarette. However, if we do not start now, it will get worse and worse. Now, the vape juice is easily modifiable. When they say about this, they say that the open system is easily modifiable. They can add on other materials into the e-liquid. However, when we talk to people who are actually vape users or vapor, they even say that the closed system can actually be manipulated. So other illicit substances can still be inserted into the e-juice under the closed system. So, we have got to be, stakeholders have got to come in and put in their ideas on how to solve this problem. But we have got to have, for now, strict control. But moving forward, because we are aiming for smoke-free Malaysia 2040, complete prohibition would be the way forward.
Right. Yeah. Well, Dr. Amani, you're a family medicine specialist, and I do wonder, for the parents who are watching right now, for the school leaders, the community health service providers, what do we do to ensure that we prevent initiation of young people to vaping in the lead up to the ban in 2026?
Okay, so number one is everybody who has the knowledge, or if you do not have the knowledge, go read up about it, listen to talks on the danger of vape, and also still you have to talk about cigarette also. Make noises, but smart and educated noises, not just tin kosong, So, we have to prevent new vapors and smokers by continuous education and awareness program. So at every level of the community in our society, everybody must actually realize that vape is dangerous and damaging, not just to the physical or mental health, but to our financial health, country economy, and environmental health. So what Universiti Malaya is doing, we are having this Henti Elak Basmi Asap Tembakau, or we call it Hebat program. So we have been collaborating with multiple government agencies. We are a partner of MQUIT program. And also we partner with public and private universities to actually educate school and also the people in the university, so that they can go out to educate more in the society on the on how to prevent, the uptake of cigarette, on how to stop smoking, and also how to stop vaping. So we also do it with the NGOs and industry. So education, knowledge, and helping people in this vape area is a long battle to fight for. But parents, teachers, ourselves, anybody who's listening now, we should help them to quit. So now the important thing is that if you notice that children or teenagers, they are being penalized, they are undergoing harsh punishment if they are found to be vaping in their school. However, for my opinion, I think they are the victim of the industry. So what it should be done for them is for us to help them to quit, make them realize that yes, their action was not correct. However, there are available help out there. But parents, please realize that if you find that your children or teenagers are vaping, please help them. Do not punish them. They need help, and you do not want them to run away from you. So seek help for them because they need your support. So yeah. And also another thing is that the marketing of this, we have got to control the marketing of vape products in the social media especially, and also the marketing of these products by influencers and celebrities in Malaysia. That is among the way that we can curb the use of vape in Malaysia.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amani, for giving us some food for thought today. Appreciate your time. That was Associate Professor Dr. Nur Amani Ahmad Tajuddin from UM's Faculty of Medicine there. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. Let's continue our conversation about Malaysia's plans to ban vape by mid-2026. This after Health Minister Dr. Dzulkefly Ahmad said the government is already looking at implementation and enforcement mechanisms to enforce this. So joining us on the show to discuss this further is Azrul Mohd Khalib, who is the Chief Executive of the Galen Centre for Health and Social Policy. Azrul, the Galen Centre has publicly supported stronger action against vape. And I'm just wondering what you make of this phased approach that Malaysia is taking to this nationwide ban. Do you think it is the right approach? Does the sequencing make sense to you operationally and politically?
Well, Melissa, one of the realities that we have to face when it comes to the issue of vape and e-cigarettes is the fact that this is a very big economic sector. It employs a large number of workers. I think the last time I checked, it was around 4,000 workers and 40,000 workers and 4,000 retail shops, and brings in, I think, around 3 billion ringgit into the economy. So the issue here is really not one where we can simply ban. And the Malaysian government has taken a pragmatic and gradual approach to this issue rather than an outright ban. Contrary, or when we look in comparison to Singapore, for example, which recently has instituted not only a ban of vape and e-cigarettes, but also decided to treat it like dangerous drugs, with even fines ranging from at least 2,000 Sing dollars for possession all the way up to imprisonment and so forth. So we've got to Malaysia because we're also manufacturing, we're exporting to other countries around the world. So this approach is really one that is very much dependent on the people gradually coming around to the idea that vape and e-cigarettes is not good, is harmful, and is especially addictive in comparison to things like cigarettes, for example. And this is where public support, actually, Melissa, rather than government initiative or policy, is actually driving the motivation, providing the energy and the political will to eventually get to a point where we're possibly going to see vape and e-cigarettes be banned in the future. And this is something that's interesting to see because, you know, we have a checklist of different states that have decided to ban the sale of vape and e-cigarettes, and we're slowly going down that list. So I think there's around 6 or 7 states now that have decided to ban the sale of vape and e-cigarettes.
Okay.
I think the latest one was Perak. Yeah.
Could I just ask you, in terms of just our track record when it comes to implementing tobacco-related prohibitions and limitations, the GEG policy, the generational endgame, that never materialized, just despite the very strong public health arguments. I'm wondering, Azrul, what lessons you think we should learn from that experience, considering that all these different factors of public support and political will come into play?
Well, you know, the GEG is very much an ideal proposition, one that for other countries they have adopted, and it basically endeavors to ensure that there is a future where not only is it a smoke-free generation, but it's also a generation that doesn't really know what nicotine addiction is. You know, I mean, imagine that. But that's like a future that doesn't recognize carbonated drinks, to be honest, Melisa. You know, and one that you have to gradually get through via awareness and support of the public. And maybe we'll get there at one point where they decided, you know, the prevalence of smoking, vaping is low enough that might as well just ban it altogether. But at the moment, when you look at the prevalence of smoking in Malaysia, which is around 20%, and the fact that almost half or 1 out of 2 males smoke in this country, and less than, I think, 2% of women who smoke, the prevalence shows you that it's probably not going to be an effective tool to introduce GG at this point of time. Maybe when the prevalence goes down a little bit more, perhaps at the 15 or 12% range, then maybe we can try again with the GEG and see if we can get the support needed. But one thing that is very educational for us to see with the vape and e-cigarette debate that's happening right now is that the public are in the mood to at least ban vape and e-cigarettes. So, you know, that's interesting.
Oh, okay. So to leverage on that momentum, what do you think the government needs to do to secure public buy-in between now and mid of next year? What messaging, what political strategy would be necessary to leverage on that momentum you talked about?
Well, you know, so as I mentioned just now, that Perak is the latest to implement this ban, which is to not issue or renew sales licenses. So you can't sell vape and e-cigarettes in these states. And you have, in addition to Perak, you have now Johor, Kelantan, Terengganu, Perlis, Kedah, and Pahang. So sooner or later, you're going to ask yourself the question, it's going to be pretty much most of the states. So might as well just ban the thing, right? You know? And I think the mayor of Kuala Lumpur, the police chief for Kuala Lumpur sounded an alarm recently that he was concerned that Kuala Lumpur or the Wilayah Persekutuan territories could end up as being an oasis for people to buy vape and e-cigarettes. If all the states decide to ban the sale of vape and e-cigarettes, right, the only place where you can purchase vape and e-cigarettes is going to be in Kuala Lumpur. So it's going to be a situation where you're going to end up with that very uncomfortable status, and the federal government will need to decide, because right now the individual state governments are deciding on that. So to answer your question, what we are seeing right now is really this build-up of public support for banning at least the sale of vape and e-cigarettes, but that seems to be very much, you know, something that we're seeing at the state level rather than at the federal government.
So there needs to be some kind of harmonization, at least happening between states and federal government. Can I ask you, in terms of lobbying and conflicts of interest during the implementation of the vape ban, what is it that policymakers should think about or manage, particularly from the tobacco and vape companies with commercial stakes? You pointed out in the beginning of our conversation how many jobs it employs, how many retail outlets there are. So there is clearly a commercial interest here to stop this vape ban. What would you like policymakers to consider?
Well, I think for one thing, actually under the conventions that govern tobacco control, it's actually prohibited for government officials to actually engage with representatives of the tobacco industry. And this is something that in some countries it's much more strict, and in others it's not. But again, going to the fact that these industries contribute a certain amount of GDP and income tax and so forth, providing jobs and so forth, policymakers are going to be bound to the requirement for them to at least be heard. And this is something that we have to acknowledge, but also we have to temper with the fact that even though they may be doing all this, they may be contributing this amount of revenue, but the fact is that this is a harmful industry, and this is one that's not necessarily beneficial for Malaysia in the long run. And there are other industries that we can support. So the government is in a difficult place today in making this decision. But as I mentioned, it's really going to be the people who will voice out their support and to provide that political will and backbone to our politicians, MPs, ministers, and the policymakers to finally come around to this decision that, people could argue should have been made maybe 10 years ago. But, better late than never, I suppose. But
are you optimistic that we will see a complete ban on vape products by 2026, mid-2026?
Well, I think I can be definitely optimistic, but those realities I mentioned mean that lobbying will happen. A lot of business owners who contribute politically and also provide support to politicians will want to meet with people in government to try to influence and to try to change their minds. But I definitely see it happening in the next 5 years. And this is something that, countries like Singapore have already decided to do ages ago. But for Malaysia, the stakes are much more higher. And especially when you consider who owns many of these businesses also. And the fact that livelihoods are dependent on them as well is something that we were once upon a time thinking about when it came to the tobacco industry, with the tobacco plantations and so forth that were happening in the East Coast. So we're again in this predicament, whether or not to ban something that a lot of people depend on their families and livelihoods.
Right. Azrul, thank you so much for lending us your insights, your analysis. I appreciate you. Thank you. That was Azrul Mohd Khalib from the Galen Centre for Health and Social Policy, wrapping up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.